Hi everyone, and welcome to SheerEdge virtual chat for today. And it's all about wellness. We are so very lucky to be joined by a panel of fantastic charitable organisations, as well as wellness and nutritional experts. So it's time for us to sort of introduce you to the panelists, and then we'll get down to the nitty gritty. Basically, we want to make sure that this is as much about what you want to learn as well as what the panelists have to say. So make sure that you ask any questions that you have in the chat and make use of that. So today we have Monica Shafak, who is the CEO of Kaleidoscope Plus Group. For those of you that aren't aware, Kaleidoscope Plus Group is a leading national mental health and wellbeing charity that champions change and promotes positive mental health and wellbeing. Hi Monica, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi Jo, hi everybody, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem at all. And we also have Helen Moon, who is the founder of a fantastic charitable social enterprise that's dedicated to equipping events and professionals with the knowledge and tools that they need to stay well. So the organisation is Event Well. So thanks for joining us today, Helen.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
And we've also got Rita Chandanaria, who is the Managing Director of Eventologists and a fellow events agency. And welcome, Rita. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
More than welcome. We also have Shannon Howe, who's a nutritional therapist from I Cook You Serve. Thanks for joining us today, Shannon.
Good afternoon, Jo. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
We also have the fantastic Karen Edwards monitoring attendees, Lisa Tuig and Harriet Emery, who will all be moderating today. So any questions that you have, don't be shy, make sure that you pop them in the chat. And for those of you watching the live chat via Zoom, please make sure that you make full use of that. Now the introductions are over, so let's get down to the panel chats. Monica, can you tell us how dramatically the pandemic has affected your charity and the work that you do and how you've been operating right now?
It's had a massive impact on us as a charity. First of all, having to move our services online was a huge thing that we had to do very quickly. We're lucky that as an organisation we had the flexibility to do that. So we have a care home that is being managed in the normal way on a day-to-day basis, because obviously we can't move people out of the care home, but all of our other support services, so our counselling, our floating support services, the work that we do with children and young people, that's all moved online, which has been a revelation to say the least. But in terms of demand, I mean, demand has skyrocketed. We've always said that everybody has mental health in the same way as we all have physical health. Sometimes our mental health is good, sometimes our physical health is good. And sometimes, you know, we might have a day where our mental health isn't as good as the same way that your physical health can suffer as well. So we don't believe in the statistic that 1 in 4, we all, 100% of us all have mental health. It's the illness that we want to actually avoid. And obviously the pandemic, with isolation, with the anxiety of COVID itself and what the future may bring, the impact that it has on people's finances with being furloughed and effect on businesses, it's had a massive impact in terms of the demand and the type of people we're now seeing. So previous to the pandemic, it tended to be people who actually have a diagnosis of mental illness. Now we're seeing more and more people who don't actually have a formal diagnosis, more people with depression, more people with anxiety, people who haven't actually turned to mental health services in the past because they've never needed to. So the type of clients we are now seeing is completely different, and the range of issues that we are now addressing is also very different. And interestingly, what we've also found is people who have had a diagnosis in the past, because they've had interventions and they've learned the skills to manage triggers, they haven't necessarily found this pandemic as difficult as people who haven't had those interventions in the past because they've already got the tools. So in some respects, those people who've had a diagnosis previously and had interventions previously have been supported and they've been continued to support. It's kind of more the people that have never accessed services in the past that we're seeing now. In terms of other impacts, obviously we can't fundraise in the way that we used to fundraise as well. So although demand is increasing, actually we don't have the resource. So that's a huge issue for us as an organisation. Obviously there's no events taking place. There's only so much you can do in terms of fundraising online. But in addition to that, businesses that would ordinarily support charities aren't now able to do that because of the financial crisis that some of them are facing themselves. So there's been lots of negatives, but also some positives in that we've been able to reach a wider audience than we would have done if it was strictly face-to-face delivery. So that there are positives, and I don't want to just kind of focus on the negatives. I think it's really important that we do see that there's a lot of good that's actually come out of this as well.
Thank you for sharing that, and you know, thank you for all the great work that you do and continue to do. And you know, I know right now it's going to be backbreaking work because, like you say, you know, we've seen numbers that you know, so many of us would never have ever anticipated in what you would deem a normal scenario, and this isn't a normal scenario at all. So hopefully we can raise a bit more awareness of your charitable organisations and get some people supporting as we would wish to do as well. Helen, again, I know of the fantastic work that Eventwell does and did pre-pandemic, but as we know, the hospitality and events industry has been one of the many industries badly affected by this pandemic. So how has this affected, or you know, what you do in you know, your normal, what would be normal and what is now not normal at all situation?
Yeah, well, Eventwell, we're a new charitable organisation. So for us, we kind of got started. I mean, we founded in 2017. And as a CEO, you know, we kind of got the company going mid 2019 and the charity and the charitable stuff that we were doing going in mid 2019. So we'd had about 6 months of operating and kind of doing the things that we do. And then COVID hit, you know, which had a massive impact on us, massive impact on it. Monica's turned around and said all of the things that we had planned to fundraise and raise revenues and stuff just completely went out of the window, you know. So our original business plan in terms of what Eventwell was as a social enterprise at mid 29 looks very different to what it is now. And I suppose that's a positive for us as an organisation that's specifically for our industry. So it's specifically for events, it's specifically for creatives, and a lot of the education, the events and the stuff that we offer out there and we push out there is based around people working in our industry and having that unique knowledge of what it's like to work in our industry, project management, the stuff that comes along with that, deadline orientated, the pressure that puts on people. You know, and we already had an industry. I like our statistic that we use because we always make it very, very clear that everyone has mental health, but approximately 1 in 3 event professionals every year will be struggling with their mental health. And we're very clear on what that statistic means. And that's almost double that Mind will say for people that are in work. So Mind will say that people who are employed, about 1 in 6 every year, will have difficulties with their mental health and be struggling with their mental health. That doesn't take away from the message that we all have mental health, because we're very strong with that as well. But for the events industry, we were already an industry that had challenges. We were an industry that never talked about mental health up until 2017, that would brush it under the carpet, that would basically, it doesn't happen in our industry. We had a very work hard, play hard mentality that kind of put out there that if you can't hack it in this industry, go and work in another one. And instead of grow a pair, you know, get some a very kind of male mentality to it for an industry that has an awful lot of women that work in it as well. So that's one of the things that we want to do, is address that, to change attitudes, to encourage empathy. So our values are empathy, culture and self-care. From an industry level, it's about understanding, compassion, empathy. At business level, it's about the culture within organisations, toxic cultures that can impact on mental health negatively. But also as well, from an individual perspective, how important self-care is, and particularly when you work in a pressured job, you have a pressured career. It's very, very important that you look after. So the stuff that we do is all about those 3 values that we centre. but the way COVID has changed us as a charitable organisation is really in terms of that support. So when we wrote the original business plan for Eventwell, we never thought that we'd be giving out financial aid and small relief grants, and that's fundamentally part of the charitable support that we offer. So people can come to us if they can't put food on the table, if they can't pay their mortgage, which I didn't know up until recently, that Universal Credit does not cover mortgage payments.
Oh my goodness.
You know, things like that. It's just, we help with that. And then we've also got, and that's part of the Eventwell Pledge, which is probably the most significant point of need support that we're offering at the moment. And the idea of Eventwell Pledge is that it deals with those triggers, those traumas, those environment issues that can impact mentally, impact on people mentally from a mental health perspective. They can very, very quickly deteriorate and end up in a very dark place because they're not able to provide, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think, you know, if you can't provide for your family, then it just even, you know, snowballs even further, doesn't it? So it's amazing.
And on that point as well, we have a lot of men that approach Eventwell because Eventwell Pledge offers them the opportunity to still be able to provide, you know, that kind of element there. And we've got a lot of women that we support as well that come in terms of asking for applications. And then as well, bursary. So Eventwell Bursary is starting, that's providing people with that mental health awareness and that education. I mean, Monica mentioned it. I have to say though, I've still struggled, Monica, and I'm diagnosed with bipolar and I've had it since I was 16, but I have still struggled because my toolkit has been unavailable to me. So not everybody who's been diagnosed, I've spoken to an awful lot of other people as well who are in similar positions with their mental health, that not being able to have face-to-face catch-ups with their family, with their friends, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a mix of, yes, some people are doing okay with managing their mental health conditions and stuff, but there's times when it gets really hard and a bit of a struggle as well. And for me, kind of, I always say for you to better manage something, you need to have an understanding of that there are not enough people out there that understand what mental health is. We all know about physical health. We all know the stuff we should be doing to take care of ourselves as well, don't we? We all know we should be eating healthily. We all know we should be exercising. We all know that we should be getting better sleep and stuff, but sometimes we just don't do it because we get
we're human beings as well, aren't we? So, you know.
So we all know what we all pretty much have a good idea what we should be doing. But unfortunately, from a mental health perspective, you know, and a health perspective, and this impacts on physical health as well. What Eventwell wants to try and support with is those experiences and those environments and those cultures and all of that kind of, and those disconnections. We want to try and help people with those areas because we find, rather than the sticky tape approach kind of stuff, we believe in mental health first aid. We push that out as well. So we offer mental health first aid. We've got a champions program, which is about primary and secondary interventions in the workplace and to support proactive, positive culture in workplaces. We're all about trying to impact on the environments and the connections and all of that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that we want to positively change and impact, because from my experience living with a mental health condition for all of my adult life, I've had it since I was 15, 16. I understand how, and I know other people that work and volunteer and work with Eventwell as well. We understand how that's the stuff that has that real impact on mental health and well-being. There's a brilliant book that you should read. It's all about lost connections, it's called. It's Johan, I can't remember his surname, but look it up, Lost Connections. Have a read of that book. It is awesome. And it talks an awful lot about the stuff that I'm talking about. A chapter that is just covered was about people who are obese, people who are overweight. And what they actually discovered, that it wasn't actually an eating problem at all. It was a childhood trauma problem. So for women who are overweight, they talked to a lot of these women and they took them through the therapy, and they actually discovered that some of them had suffered from sexual abuse or been raped when they were earlier. So they saw that putting on weight and being fat made them less attractive. So it took the danger of that happening away. It was actually nothing at all to do with food. So, and the book kind of covers those kind of disconnections and the environment kind of reasons behind why some people experience poor negative mental health, and why other people don't, because of course we're all different, we're all individual, you know. So I'd recommend that, but have a look at that book, definitely.
I was going to say, I've just made a note of it actually. It sounds
Lost Connection.
extremely interesting, and we will obviously be providing this this chat as a replay, and we will be uploading it to YouTube. So I'm sure a lot of people will find, you know, that extremely interesting and useful. But thank you for everything you're doing, Helen. So I just wanted to obviously say that as well. Shannon, tell us what you've been doing. I know you've been supporting so many people during this pandemic as well, but tell us a little bit more about you know, what you do, the nature of what you do, and obviously, you know, like Helen said, you know, we know what we're meant to be doing. We know that we're meant to do things in a certain way and at a certain time, but are there any sort of things, information that you can impart in terms of eating in the best possible way to aid, you know, wellness and well-being and healthiness?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jo. And thank you to Helen and Monica for everything that they are promoting and putting out into there. The resources are great. The pandemic has changed a lot of people's eating habits with the change from working from home, from the office to working from home and having the fridge fully stocked and available, to having children at home and always asking for snacks repeatedly throughout the day. As well as the stress of the pandemic, more and more people are looking to food to bring them comfort. I've supported these different groups by bringing some structure into their eating habits. So when people make a food decision, it's actually something that they want rather than kind of something they fancy in the moment. It's actually a decision, and that's where I initially support people. So this process starts off with a food diary. Now this is something everybody can do. And it is simply a notepad where you write down everything that you eat and drink, what time, and roughly how you are feeling. And this might sound really basic, like you mentioned, Jo. We all kind of know what we should do. And a food diary might sound really basic, but when we write down what we eat and drink, what time, and roughly how we were feeling, we see the types of foods that we are repeatedly eating and when. And usually there are patterns of what foods people turn to and what foods people don't turn to when they've got a stressful period later in the day, whether that is another Zoom call or having to balance working from home and homeschooling. A food diary can tell us what we're not eating as well as what we are. Are we getting our 5 a day or even 10 a day? Like, is that something you're aiming for? And like you said, we all know it's important to eat well, but is it something we're currently acting on? So a food diary is a great first step, and it can make sure that people eat in the best way possible. A lot of the work that I do with clients, I'd recommend you taking some time just to sit and think, actually, there is so much importance around eating well for yourself and for others, and just kind of sitting with that thought for a little while. When we eat well, what, when, and how we eat and drink impacts us at a cellular level. What we eat and drink can make us feel positive or negative, and this feeling can knock onto the people around us and into the work that we do. It's always worth saying again, in my opinion, what, when, and how we eat has an impact on a cellular level. Really think over the impact of that statement. For me, it holds so much. So this deep individual impact affects our physical and mental health. Food can affect how we feel, and in turn how we show up for others and for ourselves. This is about well-being, this is about giving, but also you can't give if you're not looking after yourself. With the support of different food choices, not always better, not always worse. It's not always about saying no to things. Sometimes it's about saying yes to something that's going to look after yourself a little bit more. In that world of distractions, we can stay focused for longer and have just a little more energy. So I always recommend starting off looking at an individual or group's food foundation. So how much water do you drink? Do you eat a rainbow of fruit and veg? And do you meet your 5 or 10 a day? And if you're someone who snacks, what are you snacking on? My clients decide whether they want to make a great big change or start off small, but something that hasn't changed even during the pandemic, is that it's about creating lasting habits. That's something that's really important to me and my clients. So like I said, this can start off with tracking how much water they drink. Again, this sounds simple, but who here actually has 8 glasses of water every single day? And are you doing the same when you've got a busy day? Like, we all slip up. When we're dehydrated, our bodies communicate this to our subconscious as a subtle underlying anxiety and a threat to our survival. So we all have days where tasks can get on top of us, but simply drinking more water can just be a step in not becoming overwhelmed. And by the time we're dehydrated, that impact has already taken place on our bodies. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out, you buy a new water bottle. I'm suggesting you fill up a glass with some water and just drink more of it. Or that water bottle you already have in the back of your cupboard. We already have these things. The second point I mentioned was, are we eating a rainbow of fruit and veg per day? Now, different fruits and vegetables provide our bodies with different vitamins and minerals that we need. When we limit ourselves to one specific colour or a small selection of vegetables, we're also limiting our bodies. So shop the rainbow, chop the rainbow, cook the rainbow, and eat the rainbow. Food is so delightful. We should really enjoy it and embrace it. It gives us so much. I do also appreciate you maybe rolling your eyes that I'm telling you to eat more fruit and veg. Like, I completely understand. My clients do the same. But this is something that is actually really critically important and has a huge impact on the next steps that I take when working with people. It's a great step to consider even how much fruit and veg you're currently eating. And it can help to look past what a fruit and veg is in the moment to see the benefits they will bring to your body. It's important to remember that not only do our taste buds change, you may not have liked tomatoes when you were younger, but actually you love them now. You can also train your taste buds into enjoying different types of ingredients. So including more fruit and veg into your diet, if that's something you're looking to do, I'd recommend it is. I'd start by pairing it with a flavour that you enjoy. Personally, I love garlic. Cover anything in garlic and I am 100% more likely to eat it, whatever it is. Loads of vegetables are really good at absorbing different flavours, and that's just simply that can be enough to get them into your body, into the people around you. My second piece of advice would be to cut up vegetables really small. Now, this is a really old tip that a lot of parents love. However, the brilliant thing about working with the nutritional therapist is times and philosophies change, and the idea, however effective, of sneaking vegetables into sauces and gravies and just to pad things out is brilliant, but it is short-term. It's a short-term solution. A better solution when working with younger people specifically would be to educate them, help them learn more, get them involved in the cooking, so they know more. It's not just, oh, that's just a load of soggy old cauliflower on a plate. It means something more to them. But that's another presentation for another day. I don't think it's possible to have too much veg on a plate. So if you have one thing to take away, that's what it is. The vitamins and minerals that they provide are key to help our bodies run in a healthy way. So just to give you a visual on this before I move on, and I promise I will, is that vegetables is like an orchestra. We need different instruments that come together to create breathtaking classical pieces. I love classical music. Or the sound that brings the action into an action film. Everything has to come together, and it's the same with what we eat. It's the same with what we put into our bodies. We need different vitamins and minerals from the foods that we eat that work together, that help us show up and be our best selves. And then there's a group of people who are snacking out of boredom or negative emotions. I work through how people can work with food to look after our minds and bodies. We're talking about wellness after all. Many seeds, specifically pumpkin seeds, for example, are full of magnesium and zinc. And if you're deficient in magnesium and zinc, you're more likely to have anxiety and depression. Now, a handful of different types of seeds, they can make a massive difference. They won't solve everything, but I think for me, well-being is about more than one approach. It's about bringing everything together. So seeds are brilliant. They're a brilliant way to start the day. Sprinkle them on your cereal, add them into your lunch, evening meals. They can make us feel fuller for longer, not only supporting us with our negative moods, mindsets, mental health, but also prevent us from snacking. So that's really important as well. When I work individually with a client, I go through their potential nutritional deficiencies, any gaps in their diets. We fill those gaps. And what's changed quite dramatically during the pandemic is that people's eating habits have changed so dramatically that food diary was even more important, because people were even more unsure on what they were eating. So a food diary might sound really like easy thing to do, but actually it is really important. I would really encourage everyone to get involved with that. So these 2 assessments can fill in what you are and what you aren't eating. And then we look to work together and adjust what they're eating to include more fruits and vegetables, but things that they'll enjoy as well, things that they're going to want to have into their diet. And it's other aspects as well, like if you like chips, crisps, why don't you try roasted chickpeas? If you're a chocolate lover, why not have dark chocolate? If you snack into the evening, maybe make a decision to stop eating after a specific time. So it can be really easy to get caught up with different food trends, but when I work with people, I like to take everything back to build new food foundations, and then from these good foundations we can explore different avenues that are specific to their goals. Just one final thing that I think is really important to say is that food and ingredients stay the same, from the amount of vitamin C that's in an ingredient, or what our bodies use it for. It's our individuality and tastes that change. I pair up the vitamins and minerals that our bodies need and work with the client's food preferences to fill in any gaps in our eating habits. It's about taking what your eating habits are from knowing about different things to implementing them, so that we can show up and be our best selves, whether that's at a meeting room table or our dining room table, and just really supporting people in understanding what they can do to best help themselves. So thank you.
That's lovely. Thanks ever so much, Shannon. That was really, really, really helpful, and such great tips for people to take. As you say, you know, we are human beings. We know what we should be doing, but I think they're really great insights and some really useful information there. We'll explain a little bit more about the food diary, because we are going to be including that in our wellness hampers. So if people are interested in that, but let's move on to Rita. Hi, Rita.
Hello.
Hi. I know you, like me, are a great advocate for mindfulness and wellness. I'd like, if you don't mind, to share a little bit about your thoughts on how others may be able to make even the slightest adjustments to their day-to-day lives, just to accommodate self-care, any nuggets of information. And I know you've kindly provided a download as well, so we will be sending it out to everyone. But yeah, if you could tell us a bit more about what your thoughts are.
So I guess, you know, everything that everyone's talked about, sort of Helen, Monica and Shannon, kind of resonates really well with me. And actually what I'm going to talk about right now has all those snippets added together. But for me, Helen's absolutely right. We're in the events industry. So actually you think you're infallible. And actually my story really started where I actually had to hit the ground, and I could actually feel the cold of the ground before I understood that I needed to do something. And actually it was mindfulness and everything to do with my own wellness that is not just going to change, you know, my own personal life, but also my professional life. And it's actually understanding that. And I've had a real interesting challenge, sort of trying to convince my own team to kind of go, look, embrace this is important. And actually probably before the pandemic, they probably thought sometimes I was a bit sort of happy hippie and a bit woo woo, and actually now the same people are coming to me going, Rita, what can I do? So sometimes it's just maintaining those, and I sort of personally, I feel and I look 10 years younger. I won't share with you some of the pictures of the past, but oh my word, I look at myself going, who's that? And so actually I feel lighter in myself, my thoughts, and also just things that used to bother me don't bother me so much, because I now know how to kind of deal with those in my sort of head and my daily practice. But professionally, which is what we're sort of talking about at the moment, are massive rewards, because actually in terms of looking at things objectively, when we're stressed, we look at things in such an emotional way, but actually stepping back and being able to go, oh, actually I can see it in this sort of way, I'm able to concentrate more, things get completed a lot faster. And I find that when I show up to meetings, I'm a lot more productive, and I show up to meetings or family events, and actually I'm there physically, mentally, and you've got 100% of me, because I do certain things. And in terms of sort of changing, I've only made little tinkers and little changes, because I always try and say it's actually making the unfamiliar familiar, that you don't actually even realize that you're doing, something that is inherently different. And sometimes when we look at stopping smoking, stopping eating chocolates, it's when you do it so radically, going, I'm going to do, the January or sort of dry January, you do it sort of in a way that you just can't sustain it. But if you put it as part of, I guess, daily practice. And so if I was to define one thing, and if I was to give one recommendation, would be to add structure. So structure in things like, in my personal sort of day, I wake up and I exercise. I have a time I sleep. I have a time I wake up. And it's like brushing my teeth. I do it sort of all the time. But even in silly things like the structure I put in, things that are what I call, pithy kind of decision making. So I have a similar kind of breakfast every day. I put things away in places, so I never need to think about where that thing was, which is a real good source of sort of stress, because we're running around the day before looking for our passports. Well, actually, if you've got certain things and structure in your life, you just don't add those stress points in where they don't need to. So then actually your mind is absolutely clear to focus on what you can't control, which is work and everything else. The other practice is sort of breathing, and I think we all shallow breathe a lot, and actually I tended to shallow breathe a lot when I was sort of stressed out. So actually adding more oxygen in, and really simple things that you can do is sort of, when you're feeling really stressed, 4 seconds to breathe in, 4 seconds to breathe, that you hold your breath, and then 6 seconds that you breathe out, and then repeat that pattern until you're feeling better. And I can certainly say during the pandemic, I've kind of dropped a couple of times where I've spent a bit too much time watching the news or something. And I realized that actually, I convinced myself that I'm either having a heart attack or it's COVID. And then actually, when you step back from that situation and start breathing, you realize that actually it's stress levels. So it's a really good way before a presentation, before a meeting, where you really suck in the oxygen and bring yourself back to the present. And I think the last thing I would probably say, and probably one that keeps me constantly sort of happy, is being in a attitude of gratitude. So really spending time, and it actually the time is only 2-3 minutes, because again, that's structured in this day that I try and put together for myself. So focusing on what you're grateful for in the morning, gives you kind of the positive hormones to start the day, rather than going, oh, I knocked my toe on the bed or something. Actually focus on the nice things. And sometimes if you can't think of the nice things, think about the warm shower that you're going to have, or actually the cozy bed that you were sleeping in just before you woke up. So actually push yourself to think gratefully. And as you do that, your whole day starts, sitting in line, and you stop focusing on what is negative in your life. And then just before I go to bed, again, 2-3 minutes of what was great, what happened that was great in the day. Just doing that keeps me focused. Say during pandemic, during this pandemic, yes, things are pretty doom and gloom for the events industry, but how can you stop yourself from going, oh, it's really awful, that it's really bonkers, and really focus on, okay, this is going to change. This is a temporary thing. It's going to get better. So it really does stop you from doing that by going to bed on a grateful note. And actually you can say, what did I learn from today? If it was a really hard day, see the blessing behind the curse, and sort of turn it backwards and turn the bad thing into, what could have you done better? So really, actually, I think the final piece of advice is, when you're actually feeling really good inside, and this is my own personal story, it has an absolute direct impact on the world around you and the changes around you. I've seen, having dropped to lower than I could ever, I don't think I could ever be in that same position again. I made that promise to myself. I'm never going to go there again. So actually these little things that I've just built into my day and my life are easy things as an events person to build in, but it's absolutely transformed my life to something that, I couldn't have even dreamt of.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And that, it's lovely to hear it, because I make sure I do sort of journaling first thing in the morning and at night, and I focus on what I can control and try not to focus too much on what I can't, because I find it really doesn't serve me. And I think sharing your experience and your habits and the way that you can create your own wellness pattern and what works for you, because we're all individuals, aren't we?
Yeah.
But it's so lovely to hear all the things that you talked about, because that's exactly how I feel as a person. And I think it helps, because I think the more positive and grateful you are, the more you see more of that. I don't know if you found that yourself, but that's what I glean from it, definitely.
Absolutely. And building it into a habit, like brushing your teeth, just becomes natural rather than something you force yourself to do every day.
Yeah.
And similar to the exercise, sort of people who really exercise and love exercise, they only love it because it's part of them and part of their inner core. So yeah, absolutely, I would say that make it as part of your everyday routine.
Wonderful. Right, well, I think everybody's had enough of my voice. I'm going to thank you everybody for answering my questions. I'm going to hand over to Harriet for any questions that everyone might have.
Hello. We have one that's for both Monica and Helen, and it's asking about how people can get involved with charities, especially obviously at this time where it's a bit more difficult.
Do you want to go first, Helen, or would you like me to go first?
You go.
Okay.
You go first.
Yeah, it is difficult, obviously, because we don't have the kind of traditional volunteering opportunities that we would do had that pandemic not been here. But I think it's very much also about raising awareness of the charities that you want to support and the work that they do, so that people who, for example, people might want mental health support services, they know that charity is available for them, they know that they can get support from them, and we do tend to find that the more people we end up supporting are the ones that, when they are able to, will be the ones that will kind of do those fundraising events for us. So it's kind of a bit of a two-way street. There are administrative stuff that people get involved in. The social media is absolutely huge at the moment. So if there's things that you could do remotely in terms of raising the profile through social media and your networks, that's something that's really key for us as an organisation. We're looking for digital community navigators to do that exact thing for us. And if there's anybody on the call who'd be interested in doing that, and I'm sure Joe will circulate my details, please do get in touch. But also just keep an eye on websites, because there's lots of things that different charities are doing, and they're adapting the ways that volunteers can support them. But it is very much around the digital inclusion side of things and the raising awareness of the work that they do.
Okay, shall I go? Shall I go next? Fabulous. For Eventwell, volunteering is at the centre of everything that we do. Eventwell wouldn't be where we are today without our volunteer team. We probably have about 30 people behind Eventwell running it. So the way we structure our volunteer team, because we're specific to the events industry, we actually offer, and COVID-19 has given us that digital disruption in the same way it has done the industry, and in the same way it has done many companies in our industry. So a lot of what we do now is delivered virtually. Our event program is delivered virtually. Our education program is delivered virtually. Our support that we're offering at the moment is delivered virtually. So we have opportunities, we have specific project teams. So we've got about 10 different project teams where people from events, and that's either people who are furloughed, because remember, if you're furloughed, you can volunteer and you can go and work for a charity. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do anything that's about personal development and training. So you can come and do that with Eventwell as well. And basically what you're coming to learn about managing fundraising, virtual events that we're doing, managing our virtual education program that we're doing. So you'll be helping us to operate Glisser and Zoom and do the event communications and the marketing and all of that kind of thing, and speaker liaison and stakeholder management in the same way that you would be managing a face-to-face event, because there's no difference when you're managing the two, whether it's face-to-face or virtual. The processes are exactly the same. So there are lots of opportunities with Eventwell at the moment. 3rd of March is International Event Wellbeing Day. So the best way you can get involved with Eventwell at the moment is get behind International Event Wellbeing Day on 3rd of March. We're going to have a fundraising event that we've started called Positivity. So you basically take that Y off the end and put on tea for a cup of tea. And what we're kind of promoting is on that day, on the 3rd of March, that people do a little bit of fundraising for us, down tools for an hour. And it could be that you get together with a group of people that you know, and you all have a cup of tea together and you talk about your mental health. Okay? Remember what I was saying about kind of talking and looking at environments and culture and self-care and stuff is so important to what Eventwell does. So we're all about, we kind of follow the same philosophy that Time to Change and Time to Talk kind of have. We're all about having honest, open conversations about mental health. That's what will change people's attitudes and opinions around about mental health, and develop better understanding, which will impact on stigma and discrimination that people like me, unfortunately, have experienced for a very, very long time. And also the stigma that prevents people from asking for help because they think that they'll be judged unkindly or be treated differently, or they're, you know, particularly in our industry, they won't be considered professional enough or good enough to, you know, which is a load of rubbish. I'm going to give the polite version to it. It's a load of rubbish, basically, you know, asking for help and showing authenticity and weaknesses, and that, you know, that you're a human being is strength. It's not a sign of weakness at all. It's strength. You're so much stronger when you show yourself as a person that you are. So International Event Wellbeing Day is all about that stuff, basically. So we urge all of the industry to get involved. Do your own things, post it on social media with the hashtag IEWD21 or Eventwell21. It's our 5th year of campaigning as well. Eventwell started as a campaign. We weren't supposed to be a social enterprise. We were supposed to be an annual campaign about mental health and wellbeing in events. And it was from doing that first campaign in 2017 that we identified that 1 in 3 people struggling with mental health. We all have mental health, but people struggling with it. And it was then we kind of identified that the industry needed something. So that's why Eventwell started as a social enterprise and charitable organisation for our industry and for creatives, for people working in creative industries. So, you know, Event Wellbeing Day on the 3rd of March is your campaign, guys. This is your industry and this is your campaign, and we need this more than ever. We need it. So get involved on the 3rd of March, and then get involved in September when we do International Event Wellbeing Week on the 20th to the 27th of September. Go on the Eventwell website, eventwell.org, have a look under Get Involved, and you'll see all of the things you can take part of. The fundraising initiatives, we've got Positivity on the 3rd of March and then again in September, so we're running that twice this year. But we've also got the Step 300k challenge, which starts in May and runs to August. We started it last year in lockdown, and it literally came for me, it was about 2 weeks before the beginning of May, and it popped up and I saw that it was National Walking Month. And you kind of go, oh, we should do something and that to get everybody walking and active and moving kind of stuff. So we set the challenge of 300,000 steps in a month, because they say that to keep yourself fit and active, all you have to do is 10,000 steps in a day, which is actually quite tough at the moment with us in lockdown. But the whole idea was getting people out of their houses, going for a walk outside. You don't have to run, you just have to be active and move around. Okay, not sitting at your desk from 9 in the morning till 5, 6 in the afternoon, because you need to be able to walk around. My little girl's just got a toy speaker, it's just come on. It's in the background. So May to August this year is all about those 300,000 steps in a month, but that we found last year that people wanted to carry on doing it after May. So we're going to have it from May to August this year, and for people, so that people can go for the 1 million steps if they want to. And if you do that, if you keep yourself active for those 4 months, you will achieve 1 million steps in 4 months. And as well, raise a bit of money for Pledge and Bursary and the support and stuff that we do as well, which is helping professionals in our industry who are in unprecedented, just challenging circumstances at the moment, because we've had no support. Nobody's had support, nobody's getting help. Universal credit isn't worth the piece of paper it's written on, particularly not for house owners and homeowners and families and stuff. It doesn't, and business owners as well. It just doesn't in a way. But you know, as a business owner myself, Eventwell's had no government support. We're not eligible to anything, you know. The fundraising and support that we've had from the industry, and we've probably had near to about £11,000 raised for Eventwell in the last 12 months from people in the industry, which has just been extraordinary. So even if, you know, it's £5, you can give a regular donation to Eventwell as well, £5 a month. You can set up direct debit if you want to. But even if you just make a pledge £5 for it to go to a colleague in the industry, you know, that's how you can best help Eventwell, and then Eventwell in turn helping our industry and people in our industry.
Thank you. I think there's definitely a lot out there, isn't there? It's just the awareness of it.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few questions in the chat for Shannon. First of all, do you have any specific snacks that are useful for mood boosting?
That is a great question. Yes, absolutely. So for mood boosting, the first would be roasted chickpeas. So let me just take it back a step and then we'll build it forward. So when we snack, we usually turn to things that are full of sugar or something that isn't naturally very healthy for us. And these are called empty carbs, empty calories. They won't do anything for our bodies. And in fact, they take more from our bodies when we process them than we get from them. So that's kind of what people come to me with, and what I suggest they enjoy would be things like roasted chickpeas. So roasted chickpeas are full of zinc and magnesium, like I mentioned earlier, and you can roast them and they can be like crisps almost. Popcorn, actually, popcorn is a great snack to have. It's really versatile. Like, yes, you can have it salted and sweet, but actually why not try it with something savory? It's about looking for alternatives to things. A handful of seeds as well can be an absolute game changer just when you want something sweet or just something to nibble on. Something that's quite common as well when it comes to snacking is sometimes it's not about the actual food, it's about the motion. So are you someone that likes to crunch on things? Well, then maybe look at carrot sticks. Or are you someone who likes to drink smoothies? Is that something you enjoy? Well, maybe look at milkshakes and things like that. Maybe look at smoothies, because you can make them specific to you, to your food tastes, and fill them full of spinach. Spinach is the best thing you can get into your body. Get some greens in there, stick a banana in to sweeten it up, and that will make a massive difference to your energy levels, to your focus, but also what you've met the need. You need something sweet, you've got something sweet, but actually it's looked after your body, you've cared for yourself as well. So I hope that's answered your question.
Yes, definitely, thank you. Also, so that would answer the what are feel-good foods as well, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think also feel-good foods, they're going to be something that's different for everyone. So don't be hard on yourself when it's like, oh, that person eats celery every day and that person eats kind of 3 set meals per day. People eat differently, so kind of be kind to yourself as well. If you are someone that grazes, then graze across different meals, but just make sure they're things that will support you in what you're eating.
Thank you. Also, do you have any top 5 favourite fruits and vegetables?
Okay, spinach is definitely at the top every day. Yeah, it's something that comes up so many times when I talk about this. So spinach, along with lots of different green vegetables as well. Personally, I am a cabbage lover, because if you put a load of chili flakes on it, then it's like hot and spicy. Garlic, it takes on the flavour. That's my point. So cabbage and spinach, I'm going to put that as one because they're both green. The second would be peppers, because they're really versatile. They can be included in breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner. You can just keep going with them. Then it would probably be an aubergine or purple foods, aubergines and grapes. They're great because they bring different colours, bring in different vitamins and minerals for your body. And I get really excited about this because there's so much that our bodies that we can get, and so many different ways we can support our bodies. So that'd probably be number 4. Purple foods. Number 5, I love berries. In breakfast, in smoothies, cereal, porridge, they just bring so much happiness to my day. So yeah, probably strawberries, raspberries, cherries, blackberries, yeah, the list goes on. So they're probably my top 5 groups rather than ingredients.
Thank you. We'll move on to Rita now. Have you listened to any podcasts or found any apps that you could recommend?
Quite a few. So I regularly listen to evening meditation. I absolutely love listening to Deepak Chopra. He does a really good all sorts of subjects: abundance, gratitude, peace, health, all sorts of things. And I really love his meditation, and there's a really good app on sort of the App Store for Deepak and loads of other sort of practices. Someone that I really enjoyed listening to during the first part of lockdown was a lady called Marissa Peer. She's a hypnotherapist, and most people kind of think, oh my God, a hypnotherapist would, you know, we kind of typically think of a hypnotherapist who just hypnotizes you and gets you to talk about the past and stuff. But actually she focuses on changing habits and looking at your sort of unconscious belief system, conscious and unconscious belief system. And actually some of the lessons that she talks about, I am enough, making small changes to understand the core of behavior, has been really good because I've kind of identified, I'm constantly learning about myself. So I would probably say she was very good. One that I listen to back and forth when I'm going to, traveling around, I listen to, Jim Quick, Jay Shetty. Vishen Lakhiani has lots of really interesting podcasts. So actually lots of little snippets from them kind of create what I sort of love to kind of follow. So they would be the ones that I'd sort of, in terms of listening, that probably one of the best books I've listened to, and actually works really well during this sort of has been working during the pandemic, is something called the Surrender Experiment. And all of us feel completely out of control. And it's a book that kind of actually says that sometimes when you just let go, it's probably what comes back to you is probably what's more right for you. So that whole motion of letting go and then letting things enter into your life is a really sort of powerful, it's a really powerful thing. And some of the messages in terms of this guy who thought he was going to be a yogi turned into like one of the most multi-billion pound organizations, but all he wanted to be is a yogi, but he kept on letting go and things just kept on coming. And that resistance to kind of change, and where we feel very stressed when we're resisting, actually stops when you start thinking about just letting go and letting the motions sort of take control. So I would say that they're my favorites at the moment.
Thank you. And you said earlier about thinking about what you're grateful for at the start and end of each day. Do you write those down, or do you just think about them?
No, I find I'm a big to-do person, so I have lists everywhere, but I find writing them down much better. So I write them down in a sort of really, really short journal. It literally takes me sort of 2-3 minutes in a day. And sometimes I have two. So I have a kind of what I would call a short journal with sort of gratitude and affirmations throughout the day, which I've sent a page of a page to Joe to share with you guys. But also I have a long journal. So when I'm feeling completely frustrated, when I'm feeling that I feel like I'm out of control for some reason or another, I just feel unbalanced, I actually start journaling and sometimes just writing my thoughts out, and it doesn't matter how scribbly they are. I start to discover this is why I'm feeling a little bit awful. And actually automatically I then sort of close it and go on to the next page. I never read it again. But once I've written it, it's almost like telling your best friend that I'm feeling awful today because, but I'm having a conversation with my journal. So I'm not burdening somebody else with it, but I feel much better having sort of written it. And a really good exercise sometimes when you're feeling really negative is writing down what you're feeling negative about, or writing down who you're feeling negative, like you're writing a letter to that person, and then burning it. And actually, strangely enough, I kind of thought, oh my God, that's a bit strange, but burning it and just getting rid of it, it makes me feel so much more better having done it. So that's three little sort of points in terms of journaling.
Thank you. That's all the questions that we had through the chat, Joe. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thanks ever so much, Harriet. That was really great. Thank you. So before we conclude this SheerEdge virtual chat, I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about our SheerEdge Wellness sessions and hampers. We're working collaboratively with Shannon, with Christina, who couldn't be with us today, but she is able to help deliver virtual wellness, yoga and meditation sessions, and Shannon will then contribute on the nutritional side of things. So the online sessions will be available, and we'll also then be sending out hampers. So these fantastic wellness hampers will have the food diaries in, they'll have lots of really great items for your wellness and your well-being, and we think they're a really great idea if you're looking to support you know, your loved ones, your friends, your family, your teams who, you know, you might not be working in the same office with them at the moment. You want to let them know that you are thinking about their wellness and their well-being and making sure that they're healthy and nourished. And for every session and hamper sold, we'll be contributing to Eventwell and to Kaleidoscope Plus Group. So please do, if you'd like to know more, please do get in touch with us. But we will obviously share all the links and all the information about both charitable organisations, as well as obviously the rest of the panel. And so I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all the panellists for sharing their thoughts, their experiences and guidance with us all. Thank you for taking the time out today. But also thank you to Karen Edwards for supporting with the tech and producing the session, and Harriet and Lisa in the background with all the questions. But most of all, thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We really hope you enjoyed the session, and make sure you stay well and stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you all very, very soon, hopefully in person. Let's keep every finger crossed.